It's taking a bit. Going live. We're live. Live from the Badlands. If you're watching this as a rerun, you can skip ahead 15, 16 minutes. Get to the radio side of things here. Let's see what the hell's going on here. Tired. What do we got here for Snapchat? Some days you knock out a 2-hour job in half the time. Some days an oil filter wants to go to war with you. Yeah. Heavily greased up oil filter seals is what I got going on there. So, well, it's time for us to take our daily or weekly shot. Man. So last night I had the Calcutta auction in Rame. And they still allow smoking in that bar. Yuck. I know it's a state law, but evidently they don't follow it one bit. But anyway, trying to auction in a smoky bar. It is a challenge. I'll tell you that. Morning, Josh. Here's to y'all. Yowza. Can't wait to get rid of that stuff. If you're ever coming to visit me, do not bring flavored whiskey. Just don't. Please and thank you. Morning, Dave. Thanks for tuning in from Minnesota. Scott Bulgy, good morning, sir. Oh, shit, that reminds me. I forgot to call Ben Rand the other night. One Shot Cap, good morning, America. Did you guys watch the debate? I didn't. All I did is I just watched the highlights on the social media the next day. Pretty funny stuff. Pretty funny. It's funny when you see the clip from CNN going, so what did you think of the debate? And the guys just hang their head and they're shaking their head like, That's funny stuff. Yeah. Oh man. Let's see here. Morning, Karen. Okay, well, I'm morning from Overbridge. I'm gonna get my yearly fishing trip planned over there. Dan Brown, good morning, sir. North Dakota Mike, that was the best thing about the debate. The CNN meltdown. Morning, Brian. Morning, gentlemen. Morning, all you guys. You bet. A little bit hazy out, a little foggy this morning. High fog, I should say, or low clouds, one or the other. Going to be a cooler day. Let's see. I got my ducks in a row. I don't. I gotta set my phone up yet. There, I got it set up. Done. Yeah, I don't even know what the temp. Let me see what the temperature is here. There. So NDSU put this weather station up here on the top of the hill. Yesterday we had 0.06 rain. This morning, 0.03 so far. Currently 54 degrees. No, 51 degrees. There we go. No wind. Holy shit. 98% humidity, though. There you go. Let's see here. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. 52 there. Okay. Waylon, good morning. Morning here. Let's see here. I gotta find the phone number. There it is. Watch your ears. Slow pitch softball. Yeah. Isn't McQuaid's coming up soon? It's got to be around the corner, doesn't it? Would think.
Yeah, hello.
Morning, Jamie. How are you?
Good, man. Good. How's it going for you?
Pretty good. Nice, cool morning out here today. Nice.
Yeah, geez, it was nice out yesterday over here. I mean, blowing like crazy. I was out
windy yesterday.
hiking around trying to find a coyote den, and it was just like a blast furnace out there.
Yeah. We're live on YouTube right now before the show starts. There's just giving you a heads up here for a few minutes.
Oh, you've been enjoying the Democratic cope?
I've been enjoying the CNN meltdown. I was just talking to some of the guys that are watching on YouTube here. We're chatting about that a little bit here. So, yeah. I watched the highlights the next morning on TikTok. So
yeah, I couldn't bring myself to sit through the whole damn thing. It's just too. It's not even a debate anymore. Some kind of dog and pony show.
Yeah, I like the format, and here's the reason why. Is there was less of people sitting there bitching at each other, yelling over each other, trying to talk over each other. It's like, shut the mic off, let the other person speak. I liked it. I don't like when people talk over each other and there's nothing gets really decided, so.
I wish they would have a longer format, though. I mean, it in today's media environment, it just doesn't seem to make any sense where we have to have it all set up for little 3-minute bites, and then it's another 3 minutes of commercials, and you don't really. I mean, these are big issues.
I think that at the end of the debate, they should have a bare knuckle fight. Whoever wins that, I mean, just like, okay, at least we have an up on that, I mean, that's something going on.
I think that would just hurt our feelings.
Yeah, good. Some of these people's feelings need to be hurt. This is what. Yeah, we're still off. Your station's trying to give. I got time to bitch about this. We're not on air for another 6 minutes here, so I'm going to get on my soapbox for a little bit. And I do this every damn year. It's not the 4th of July. It's damn Independence Day. And what gets me, it's one of the most important holidays we have as a nation. It is the most important holiday we have as a nation. But yet you see these people, they're calling it the 4th of July. And the 4th of July, this and this and this and this. And they don't call it Independence Day. And they don't teach anymore these kids what it means that we're having this holiday. Because, we don't want to bring up, war was such a bad thing. We declared our independence from. They don't want to teach this shit. Teach it. This is an important holiday. So it really torques me when people call it the 4th of July instead of Independence Day. So that's my speech here for today. Stations, 7:00, right on the nose on mark. Seemed like both got more upset when they insulted each other's golf game. I did not see that clip. Okay. McQuaid's is going on this weekend in Bismarck. So if you're a softball fan, that's where to go, I guess. Isn't still the largest softball tournament in the nation, I believe? And the longest in Bismarck.
In Fargo? In Bismarck.
Yeah. And I think it's like the longest running, too, in the nation. Might be the world.
Weird.
Yeah.
Like the biggest, probably have this wrong, but I think the biggest wrestling tournament is in Fargo, that RonCon or whatever. That's like the biggest one in the country.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've never heard of that one, I guess.
Really? It's like, do you follow UFC at all? All those guys go to it.
Yeah, I don't really.
John Jones, Daniel Cormier. Yeah, it's the largest collegiate, or not collegiate, because they have like the Pee-wee stuff. One of the ranches that I work for out here, his kid actually placed in that as a freshman. If you place in that, you're in Sports Illustrated. You're a blue chip athlete.
Really? Holy shit!
Yeah, it's one of the prestigious wrestling tournaments in the country. If you place well at that, you're you're looking at college scholarships, the whole 9 yards.
Nice.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
Oh,
Odd that it's in Fargo.
I'm wrestling, boxing, some of the pure forms, the old school stuff. I love it.
My daughter still does boxing. I don't know if I told you that. She started doing that when she was like 15 or some shit like that. Yeah, she did Krav Maga for years, and then she still does the boxing and stuff like that. My son did MMA for a couple years in high school. We had a gym in town here. Yeah, that's a good idea. Those kids learn how to do some of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's almost like everybody does it now. I mean, I was teaching for years and years and years, and it was like nobody was doing it. All of a sudden, it was like Ronda Rousey and all those guys started making names, and it's like, oh my God, we got to open this. We got to do this.
Yeah.
She did a lot for bringing attention to that UFC. She really did.
My daughter started, when she was in Strike Force. Yeah. My daughter was probably like 6 or something like that, and Dakota would have it on her calendar. And she might still. I mean, she follows some of those women. And make sure she watches at least those fights. I watch all of them, but she'll show up and watch like specific fights and stuff like that. So, that's
still good fun stuff. I still think the debate should end that way.
People like the old days. They'll have a surrogate. They'll get somebody to fight for them.
And not only that, but if they're our commander in chief, they should have at least served in the military, or if they don't, they should be like the old school presidents, lead the way into war. They need to be on the front lines. They feel that's a great idea.
Didn't that all end around the Korean War or Vietnam War? I mean, World War II, there was a bunch of U.S. leaders whose kids, Kennedy's, I think Kennedy lost one of his sons over there. I think Roosevelt lost one of his sons, World War II.
Yeah.
That stuff isn't happening anymore. None of those presidents or none of those leaders are trying to get their kids to go fight.
Professional politicians, is what it is.
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt put together his own little army and went down. What was it, Cuba?
San Juan Hill,
the Rough Riders.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a privateer army too, wasn't it? Did he pay everybody out of his own pocket?
I'm not sure on the history of that, but yeah,
I think he did.
I mean, those are the people that I could see being, leaders right there. It's like, okay, but we don't have that anymore. We need somebody to give me an ex-Marine running for president and then another 4 years here.
Those people never these days are going to get in any position to smell anything that resembles power without the CIA already having something on them.
You know why? Money.
Capitalism, man.
It all comes down to money. It's the richest person that's going to make it even in local politics, down to the state level. It seems like you got to have so much money in order to do this.
Yeah, you have to have a name that's related to somebody. I mean, over here it's like, I certainly wouldn't complain about this because I'm part of the ranch community, I guess. But geez, the percentage of people in Wyoming that are actual ranchers compared to the people in Wyoming who are actually making the call. I mean, it's ranchers.
Right. We got 60 seconds. The mayor of Mobridge says, I'm not rich. But it's not what you know, it's who you know. And Gene, I mean, you're on top of that stuff. So he's a meat inspector, so he could make your life a living hell if you don't vote for him.
A guy needs to pay attention to his local politics. That national stuff is really kind of a.
I wish our district wasn't so big in Southwest North Dakota. We got a huge district, goes from South Dakota border all the way up to north of Watford City, and most of the people running in this area are all from up in that area. Anyway, 25 seconds to get my brain in PC mode here. Stand by, Jamie. Going quiet here. Stand by. Well, good Saturday morning and welcome to the Saturday edition of Dakota Prairie Outdoors. I'm Scott Bachmeyer. The next hour, the fastest hour in radio coming your way. As we've been on here nearly 2 decades strong here on great radio stations all across the Dakota Territory. KGFX in Pierre, South Dakota, KOLY Mobridge, KFire 550, the voice on the Northern Plains in Bismarck, Mandan, KCJB in Minot, and on the Western Edge, KLTC. Good to have you along in Dickinson, too. And everybody watching on the YouTube channel, thank you for subscribing, and tell your friends and neighbors to do so as well. My channel is Dakota Prairie Outdoors Radio, and the more subscribers, the more I can go and do mobile YouTube shows, which is ultimately my goal, is to spend some shows in the blind here this fall, hopefully trying to arrow a big game animal. Jamie Olson with Box Creek Outfitters is my guest here this morning. Jamie, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Scott.
Well, are you ready to talk predator animals? Are you ready for this?
Yes, sir.
Got a story for you. Black bears being spotted in southwest North Dakota, down south of Marmarth, north of Scranton. Amadon running across somebody's ditch. Over by Galva, that one killed a couple calves and livestock over there. And one of them I seen last night. One of the, I say neighbor, but it's like 70 miles away, you know. And
this one, North Dakota, though. That's a neighbor.
Yes, for southwest North Dakota it is. But black bear moving in, which I understand. I mean, we got the Black Hills of South Dakota has a population. Wyoming's got a population. They're transplanting. I heard this last night too. They're taking the troubled bears out of western Montana and placing them in eastern Montana instead of just getting rid of these troubled ones. And of course, Minnesota's got black bear, Canada. So it's just a matter of time that they're going to be showing up, and they are at this point. And, you know, what do you know about the black bear here?
Oh, you know, I've been hunting black bears for a couple decades now.
Have you really? Okay.
Yeah. And I kind of got they're a big raccoon sort of mentality. Like everybody, like when I lived in Minnesota, right, everybody had them in their backyards.
Yeah.
And as long as you weren't leaving bird feeders out and being mindful of the trash cans, they're really not that big of a, I don't know, this is me saying this. I don't have livestock, or excuse me, I don't have cornfields and beehives for them to mess up.
Yeah.
But the normal layman, they're pretty easy animal to have around you. Even the sows with the cubs aren't. I've been around lots and lots of sows and cubs, especially on baits. And I've only had one that got a little bit uncomfortable, but usually they just, I don't know. I just don't think they're that, you know, I don't want a mountain lion in my backyard, but the bears just don't seem to bother much.
Well, I've been told that black bear will kill more fawns and elk and deer fawns and calves and livestock more than some of these bigger predators will. Or I shouldn't say bigger than a black bear, but I mean than mountain lions and coyotes and all that. So I that's what I was told. I don't know if it's true or not. That's why I have you on the radio, because you're the guy.
I don't know.
The wealth of information today.
I appreciate that. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I just never, you know, because they eat about anything and everything they get their hands on. They don't hunt in any kind of group setting. Yeah, I don't know about that. That isn't anything I've ever heard where they're that gregarious when it comes to, well, even livestock. Like out here, you just don't really ever hear of black bears killing stuff. But we got a lot of other animals that are trying to kill them. So sometimes it's just a matter of who gets there first.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was curious about, you know, dealing with black bear.
The mountain lions, I think, are the worst. I think mountain lions are the apps because they're eating. I probably got this wrong, but I think an adult male can kill 1 to 3 deer a week.
Okay.
And you start looking at okay, so here's what happens with wolves. It's not like wolves per se are killing all the deer and elk out here. And our elk population is actually doing extraordinarily well. Some of the guys are talking that it's because we got a bunch of lions around here too, that it's the lions that are doing the killing, but the wolves and the bears are chasing the lions off their kill, forcing them to kill more stuff.
I see.
So if you got a pack of wolves out there, they don't necessarily have to kill at the rate that a lion would. And a lion's a lot more efficient killer. They just got to chase him away.
Right.
And they do a lot of that.
So
that's
so when somebody, so you're in the Wyoming area. So when somebody sees a couple wolves on a dead deer carcass or livestock, they assume that they killed it, where it could possibly be a mountain lion killed it and the wolves chased it off.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I heard, and I can't remember who. Just so it's spring. This spring, I was at, I'd been guiding bear hunts in the spring up in the Bridger Teton National Forest, and there's some pretty knowledgeable guys that show up at those things. We get to talk to the game wardens up in that mountain area, and I just don't think people are taking into consideration. One, I don't think anybody has a clue on how many lions these states have, and just the efficiency on which they kill. And it's not like lions are eating anything but meat. Like bears have a pretty broad range of food, though. Even coyotes, give them some options, they'll certainly take advantage of them. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I just don't know if black bear, I just never really think of them as being much of a problem.
That's interesting.
The lions on the other hand, I think they're doing the bulk of the killing, and everybody else is cleaning up the mess. Because there's no check on the lions these days.
Yeah. So you think when somebody says, well, the population of mountain lions in western South Dakota or western North Dakota is slowly going down, or maybe it's on the rise, and they do this according to how many lions are taken and how quickly they're taking lions each year. Like in the Black Hills, they have 60 or 40 females, whichever comes first. And they haven't met their quota for the last couple of years. They've gotten close. North Dakota.
How many females?
40, I believe.
40?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can tell you. I follow it in South Dakota pretty heavily because we got some property down there, and there's lions all around it. I can't, you got to be a resident, all that kind of stuff. And I really, really wish I could get to that point of being able to go through the hills and do that. But I got them in my backyard too. It's just a problem with, I finally met somebody last night that has hounds, and he's only 45 minutes away from me. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So South Dakota is a limit of 60 total, or when a limit of 40 females. So this year they had a total of 47 taken, 30 females and 17 males is what their total was right here. So,
you know what? You're going to have zero impact on a predatory population by removing the males. And when they're talking about controlling a population of predators, what do they always tell you? We don't want to kill the sows and cubs. We don't want to kill the females. But if you're really going to control a population that's out of control to the extent that it's affecting your doe-fawn ratios, it's killing the females. And then you get... it's just the facts of it. You can get all squeamish about it, but it's just the reality. If you want to have deer, you kill female lions. You kill the cubs. Killing males increases the cubs. It increases the number of cubs, which increases the number of deer that need to be killed to sustain that. It's just...
Well, it's no different than if I want to reduce the size of my cow herd, I sell females. It doesn't matter how many bulls I sell, it's the females. But Jamie Olson from Box Creek Outfitters is my guest. We're up against our first break here. Jamie, stand by. We'll have more with Jamie Olson. The phone lines are open if you have questions about predators. Today's the day. 888-9-DAKOTA is the number. We'll be back after these messages. Pfeiffer's Auction and Realty out of Bowman, North Dakota would like to invite you to the Len Sadler Memorial Classic Car Auction in conjunction with the Dakota Territory Car Club Car Show, Saturday, July 27th. Mustangs, Corvettes, a 1928 Graham Page, Mercury Cougar, REO Speedwagon, a 38 Chevy sedan, a 49 Hudson, and much, much more, including oil and gas memorabilia. Join Pfeiffer's Auction and Realty for the Len Sadler Memorial Car Auction in conjunction with the Dakota Territory Car Club Car Show, July 27th, Main Street, Bowman, North Dakota.
Agriculture is a community of hard work, passion, optimism for the future, and a commitment to the livestock and land. For over 80 years, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been a leader in ag financing. Our local lending team knows the industry and the challenges, from droughts to winter blizzards. Stop by one of our branches today in your work boots or cowboy boots. You're always welcome.
Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Bowman Livestock Marketing, serving the tri-state area for all of your livestock marketing needs. Eastern Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. You can be sure of great care for your cattle and top price at sale time. Call Austin Snook at 307-290-2161. That's 307-290-2161 for more information or just to talk cattle markets. You can also find them on Facebook and go to their website, bowmanlivestockmarketing.com. This portion of the program is brought to you by Freedom Repair. Whether it's your tractor, baler, your cutter, your combine, or air seeder, Freedom Repair comes to you and helps you get fixed up and back in the field. 19 plus years experience. Give Lucas Kelly a call at 701-440-1945. That's 701-440-1945. Freedom Repair, veteran owned and operated. MoPro Guide Service, the best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Mo Rest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer. Rockin' 7W has all the panels you need. Freestanding panels, windbreak panels, feeder panels, and the original protester panel. If you don't know what that is, it's a sort panel that makes sorting calves from a cow a breeze. You can custom order sizes to fit your current operation, or you can start from scratch. Rockin' 7W also does trailer repair on any size trailers, mobile welding, and custom cattle hauling. Call Justin at Rockin' 7W at 701-206-1030. That's 701-206-1030. Rockin' 7W, the farmer and rancher's go-to guy. Western Frontier Insurance, agents that understand you, your needs, and the community. Whether you're looking for coverage on your farm, ranch, home, or auto, you can trust that Western Frontier Insurance will find you a combination of price and coverage that works for you. No fancy jingles, no talking boxes or talking animals, just good neighbors helping to keep you covered with price in mind. Western Frontier Insurance. Offices in Hazen, Washburn, Wilton, Bowman, and Hettinger. Pfeiffer's Auction and Realty out of Bowman, North Dakota would like to invite you to the Len Sadler Memorial Classic Car Auction in conjunction with the Dakota Territory Car Club Car Show, Saturday, July 27th. Mustangs, Corvettes, a 1928 Graham Page, Mercury Cougar, REO Speedwagon, a 38 Chevy sedan, a 49 Hudson, and much, much more, including oil and gas memorabilia. Join Pfeiffer's Auction and Realty for the Len Sadler Memorial Car Auction in conjunction with the Dakota Territory Car Club Car Show, July 27th, Main Street, Bowman, North Dakota.
I'm Dale Paulke with Dakota Community Bank and Trust, the bank that puts community in its name. We're not just any bank. We're your trusted partner in lending. With a strong commitment to our local communities, we go above and beyond to support and uplift the areas we serve. From providing personalized lending solutions to supporting local businesses and organizations, Dakota Community Bank and Trust, where the community is at the heartbeat of everything we do. Equal housing lender.
On that road, but don't you worry, one day I'll settle down. And when that time comes, I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around.
Welcome back, everybody. It is the Saturday edition of Dakota Prairie Outdoors. I'm Scott Bachmeyer. Good to have you along across the Dakota Territory and around the world here on my YouTube channel as well. Thanks for tuning in and listening here today. Jamie Olson is from Box Creek Outfitters out in Douglas, Wyoming area, and he's my guest here today talking about big predators. And during the break, Jamie, you and I were talking, and give us a little history lesson about back in the old days, how they used to use the bear and why it's such a looked down upon to go bear hunting now or using them like we should be using them.
Yeah, I don't know where Teddy Roosevelt, I'm sure everybody knows this story. He used to do a lot of hunts, a lot of guided hunts. And one of the hunts that he was going on was a black bear hunt. And they literally, the crew that he had put together that was supposed to take him on this hunt, they had caught a bear, a cub, 90-pounder, probably a year old, and had it tied to a tree. So they snuck up on this bear tied to a tree. I'm sure you can Google this and look it up. And Teddy Roosevelt gave that bear a full pardon. And then they started making, the teddy bear. I'm sure everybody knows that. That's where the teddy bear came from, because Teddy Roosevelt gave a full pardon to a bear that was tied to a tree. And so it probably started somewhere around then. They selling all these cute little teddy bears for all your kids to play with. And then you got Winnie the Pooh. But back in the day, they used to trade the fat, just like they would trade other commodities, whether it's salt or flour or sugar or, bear fat. And there's two different types of bear fat. You got like the bear fat that's on the between the meat and skin, back fat. That's used for like machinery or boots and stuff like that. Guns, used to use it on their guns a lot.
Lubricant.
And then the the internal organ fat, I think they called it silk. I've got some of it in the freezer from the spring. I got some up. I was going to render down, but they use that for baking and stuff. And people ate bears all the time. They're like eating beaver. That's another popular beaver and bears. And so they were always kind of good to have around on it. I've never thought of them anything more than just a big raccoon, especially if they're getting fed. But if you want to keep them out of your stuff, make sure they don't have any food. And they don't, they're like coyotes, you can haze them pretty easily. They don't want, they just don't. I had them when I lived in Minnesota, they were in the yard all the time. And I didn't have bird feeders like my neighbors did. So obviously I wasn't getting tore up as bad as they were. But
so they go after free food is what you're saying.
Yeah, they're just, I mean, I've fed Lynn, I think it's Lynn Strauss, the North American Bear Institute out of Ely, Minnesota. When I was living in Minnesota, I was in construction and we had the contract to build the new Bear Institute. So I spent a lot of time with him, world-renowned bear guy. And he had about 80 some odd bears that would show up at that research facility out there. It was 3-level building, had all kinds of stations where they could get feed, but they could also, they'd have to get on a scale. Each have to reach up to something, get height. It was a research center.
Yeah.
And there was this huge bear coming across the meadow, and we went out there with some pecans and fed him right out of our hand. It was a spring bear, probably 380, 400-pound spring bear, huge bear. And I was just feeding him out of my hand.
Huh.
Then they follow them around, they'd have those researchers follow those females around with cubs, They're just, I don't know, they're an interesting animal that with a little bit of effort to understand them a little bit, they're not too terribly bad. Like mountain lions, you ain't going to get nothing out of a mountain lion other than just killing everything.
Well, it's a cat. I mean, have you ever gotten anything out of a house cat? Probably not.
No.
So.
No, they just kind of, anyways, yeah. So I just think that the lines have to be the first thing that everybody is concerned about. Those sneaky bastards,
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of mountain lions around Western Dakotas. There's no doubt about that. I think like you said when we started the program, how do you know the real population of what mountain lions are? It's not something you can fly over and count. Like they do in their deer surveys.
No, and then like I say, killing the males in order to control a population like they do is asinine. There's no science that backs that up.
Yeah. Well, we got a question here. It's off the subject of bears, but he says, ask Jamie, have you ever come across a wolverine?
Once. They're like super rare to see. I seen one at Bear Camp a few years ago going across with Sheep Creek. I was heading over to the Grays River Road, coming off of a bait one night, and we had one run up on the road, ran down the road for a little bit, and then crossed the road down towards the creek. That's the one and only one I've ever seen. Like mountain lions, I've never seen a mountain lion out of the wild. And I've flown in an airplane around Converse County. I've got about 1,700 to 1,800 hours in the back of a Piper, or they're not Piper Cubs anymore. They're top Cubs. But I've seen one bear out of an airplane. never seen a mountain lion, seen one wolf, and then, thousands of everything else. But the lions, though, and I never talked to any of the other guys that were flying a lot. Nobody ever seen lions out of an airplane.
They're just sneaky.
I'm sure
they're just sneaky, aren't they? I mean, even out here, I think I seen a mountain lion twice, and it's when I was hiking down in the deep stuff fencing, and I just happened to pop up over a rock or a canyon or something coming over the top, and they basically scared each other, right? I mean, that's the only time I've ever. But yeah, I've never caught one on a game camera yet. I haven't caught anything that the guy that flies coyotes here, he hasn't ever seen anything either. So interesting.
How about they're just extraordinarily elusive, I guess.
Yeah, I would say. Text message comes in, says, I've watched black bears work a calving ground in the Beaverhead National Forest like a good upland dog. So he's actually
afterbirth.
Yeah, I guess so. You don't think that they'd go after a newborn calf?
Even coyotes, my experience with coyotes on newborns, my thoughts are that generally the coyotes show up on lambing grounds because of afterbirth. The birds show up first. It's always the birds show up first and then the coyotes, right? And they're trying to get that afterbirth. When you have a bunch of them there, what happens is they start fighting over the afterbirth to the point that they're fighting over it as it's coming out of the cow.
Yeah.
We just don't, the times that we run into calf kills, now every situation is different, every area, the densities and how they, so whatever I'm saying here is true just for my area here. Right.
Yeah. Everybody's different. Yeah. I get that. Yep.
But generally what I seen when we were losing calves is that we had, so an example, we had a rancher that lost 13 calves over a couple of nights, and he's up in the mountains. And so the flying, you really have to have great weather to go flying up there.
Yeah.
So he was getting hammered on pretty hard, and we flew over there a couple times and weren't getting much done. And then I just happened to be over there on a good morning. And just around the barn, I shot one at the barn. Like literally we passed it 3 times in order to push the coyote far enough away from the barn where I felt comfortable enough shooting it. We shot 7 more right on where he was feeding. He was out there feeding that morning, dropping alfalfa off. It was December 18th. It was minus 12. So he's bringing alfalfa out. And I might have I think that's what the weather was. Anyway, long of the short was I shot 22 coyotes in 57 minutes around his
Holy
house.
cow.
22 coyotes in 57 minutes. So when you have densities like that, how they approach food is different. Like if there's not those big densities, they're just eating afterbirth out there. Yeah. They're just mousers.
But if you have
start adding all this
large density, now they're going to start going after some other, after the animal.
So I think the bears are the same way. Like the badgers too, on lambing grounds, for instance, those badgers, and they'll do it with prairie dog towns too. You'll see where if you got, let's say you have some sort of a spring kill on your lamb, and you've got some percentage sitting out there, you might have 80, you might have 120 dead lambs laying out there. If you're in the middle of lambing and you start getting some bad weather, cold weather, you get some chilled down lambs, those badgers will move in there. Again, the birds are first, but the badgers will start pulling all those lambs underground. And so an area where you should have a bunch of dead lambs because the numbers indicate that you have dead lambs, you don't necessarily find the damn things.
Right. So hold up right there. We're up against a break here, Jamie. We'll be back with more talk right after these messages. Pfeiffer's Auction and Realty out of Bowman, North Dakota would like to invite you to the Len Sadler Memorial Classic Car Auction in conjunction with the Dakota Territory Car Club Car Show, Saturday, July 27th. Mustangs, Corvettes, a 1928 Graham Page, Mercury Cougar, REO Speedwagon, a 38 Chevy sedan, a 49 Hudson, and much, much more, including oil and gas memorabilia. Join Pfeiffer's Auction and Realty for the Len Sadler Memorial Car Auction in conjunction with the Dakota Territory Car Club Car Show, July 27th, Main Street, Bowman, North Dakota.
Agriculture is a community of hard work, passion, optimism for the future, and a commitment to the livestock and land. For over 80 years, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been a leader in ag financing. Our local lending team knows the industry and the challenges, from droughts to winter blizzards. Stop by one of our branches today in your work boots or cowboy boots. You're always welcome.
Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Bowman Livestock Marketing, serving the tri-state area for all of your livestock marketing needs. Eastern Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. You can be sure of great care for your cattle and top price at sale time. Call Austin Snook at 307-290-2161. That's 307-290-2161 for more information or just to talk cattle markets. You can also find them on Facebook and go to their website, bowmanlivestockmarketing.com. This portion of the program is brought to you by Freedom Repair. Whether it's a tractor, baler, your cutter, your combine, or air seeder, Freedom Repair comes to you and helps you get fixed up and back in the field. 19 plus years experience. Give Lucas Kelly a call at 701-440-1945. That's 701-440-1945. Freedom Repair, veteran owned and operated. MoPro Guide Service, the best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Mo Rest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer. Rockin' 7W has all the panels you need. Freestanding panels, windbreak panels, feeder panels, and the original protester panel. If you don't know what that is, it's a sort panel that makes sorting calves from a cow a breeze. You can custom order sizes to fit your current operation, or you can start from scratch. Rockin' 7W also does trailer repair on any size trailers, mobile welding, and custom cattle hauling. Call Justin at Rockin' 7W at 701-206-1030. That's 701-206-1030. Rockin' 7W, the farmer and rancher's go-to guy. Western Frontier Insurance, agents that understand you, your needs, and the community. Whether you're looking for coverage on your farm, ranch, home, or auto, you can trust that Western Frontier Insurance will find you a combination of price and coverage that works for you. No fancy jingles, no talking boxes or talking animals, just good neighbors helping to keep you covered with price in mind. Western Frontier Insurance. Offices in Hazen, Washburn, Wilton, Bowman, and Hettinger. Piper's Auction and Realty out of Bowman, North Dakota would like to invite you to the Len Sadler Memorial Classic Car Auction in conjunction with the Dakota Territory Car Club Car Show, Saturday, July 27th. Mustangs, Corvettes, a 1928 Graham Page, Mercury Cougar, REO Speedwagon, a 38 Chevy sedan, a 49 Hudson, and much, much more, including oil and gas memorabilia. Join Piper's Auction and Realty for the Len Sadler Memorial Car Auction in conjunction with the Dakota Territory Car Club Car Show, July 27th, Main Street, Bowman, North Dakota.
I'm Dale Paulke with Dakota Community Bank and Trust, the bank that puts community in its name. We're not just any bank. We're your trusted partner in lending. With a strong commitment to our local communities, we go above and beyond to support and uplift the areas we serve. From providing personalized lending solutions to supporting local businesses and organizations, Dakota Community Bank and Trust, where the community is at the heartbeat of everything we do. Equal housing lender.
On that road, but don't you worry, one day I'll settle down. And when that time comes, I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the Saturday edition, Dakota Prairie Outdoors. Scott Bachmeyer with you. Jamie Olson from Box Creek Outfitters out of Douglas, Wyoming is my guest here. And we finished up the last segment talking about badgers, especially on the lambing grounds. I never would have expected that badgers would have been something that a person had to worry about. But I guess they are a predator, I guess. If they want to get after a little lamb, they're going to take it with, aren't they?
One of the ranches out here was sitting on, so they run big bands of sheep. You know, you might have a pasture, might have 1,000, 1,200 ewe lamb pairs in there. And I'm trying to think how often they paint one, but maybe let's say every 300, they'll have one painted, and it's a specific ewe. You know, it's a healthy, big, healthy ewe that's kind of I don't know if you would call her a leader or whatever, but one that's generally in really good condition. And so when the rancher's counting sheep, they're counting the colored ones.
Right.
Only the colored ones out there, right? And so he's up there counting, and every colored one is worth 300 sheep or something like that. Anyway, he's up there counting and actually watch a badger grab onto a lamb and drag it down a hole, a live one,
Wow.
So I don't know how often that happens. The problem is they're dragging them underneath the ground, so you're not really finding. I watched a badger chasing a jackrabbit one time out of an airplane, and we watched that for a minute. And the badger was bloodhounding that jackrabbit, slow like a beagle would, because if he ran it, the jackrabbit's gone. But that slow roll that he was doing, the jackrabbit literally was just running up 10 yards and stopping, and then he would stand on his back legs looking for that badger, and then the badger would stick his nose up in the air and wind them. Anyway, you don't have all morning to watch this stuff, but I've seen badgers do that with skunks. I've seen badgers do that with rabbits. I've watched badgers and coyotes work in the drainage together. A lot of the airplane. You get to see a lot of stuff out of the airplane you wouldn't normally get a chance to see.
Yeah, it's interesting stories. I bet and we were talking about airplane. How come you guys don't use helicopters?
I've flown out of helicopters before. Okay. I got so much experience out of an airplane that I kind of felt like I was just as fine out of a helicopter as, with the right pilot, mind you. An airplane, you got to have a really good pilot. Helicopter, they can kind of bang. So what they would do in the helicopters, and this would probably be good in your brush, is that we would get on top of the brush, and those props, the rotors, would beat the shit out of that brush, the wind, and we'd push them out of that stuff. Flying right on top of the stage, they get down inside there. I've flown in a Jet Ranger a couple times, but cost-wise, Jet Rangers are pretty expensive.
Right.
But if you can get a hold of somebody with a recip helicopter, they go down more often. But most of those crashes are survivable. You got to keep that in mind. The high level of survivability taking down a recip helicopter. Casper, they in Natrona County had used a recip. I don't know what they're doing now, but for years they were using a recip helicopter, and they would put that thing down. God, man, if I said once or twice a season, it's probably something like that.
Really?
Where that
and people walk away from this still, or?
Yeah, they do that auto rotate. And
sure.
But the recip, anyways, it's all kind of dangerous.
It's expensive too, isn't it? I mean, for the most part. But in your area, you're hired by a group of ranchers that got together and kept you on as an employee, basically taking care of predators.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple. So I used to run. There was two. Let me back up here. There was three government trappers. And then eventually the one guy left, a North Dakota, Western North Dakota guy. And then it was me and Mel for about 7.5 years. And then when they got rid of the government program and went to a county program, because once Obama got in, the money started drying up. Then I got hired by a couple big ranches. So where I was doing half the county by myself, and then I flew all the county. I'm going to toot my horn here a little bit, but I think they hired 2 full-time guys and 1 part-time guy to take over the area I was working. And then on top of that, I pulled away from that about 144,000 acres and roughly 6,500 ewe lamb pairs out of that.
Yeah, that you're just doing yourself right now.
Yeah, which is a lot. I mean, it's a lot. But I docked this year. Anyway, it's more blowing my own horn. But control work isn't just running out with a rifle and killing a coyote. We went out the other day. We've got some coyotes in our sheep right now. Our docking numbers were fantastic, and it's a longer story why all of a sudden we got coyotes in the sheep. We got neighbors that push coyotes around as well. But when you start wandering around looking for these things, you got to keep in mind that so the neighbor trapper called up and said that he shot a male coyote and thought he heard some pups and stuff like that. Well, for me, that's just an irritation. You didn't accomplish anything by shooting the male. You actually just made everything worse. And if you're a control trapper and you're not smart enough to realize that you're just causing yourself more problems, that's fine. But anyway, so when we're out there dinking around, I'm telling the rancher's kid has been helping me a little bit the last few years, real good guy. And I'm like, remember, we're not hunting coyotes today. We're hunting dens. The coyotes will be there if we find the den, but if we just go shoot some coyotes, we may not find the den. We need the coyotes to find the den a lot of times.
I see.
You're scouting for tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how unhelpful people can be when they're trying to be helpful. The only thing I want them to tell me is what time of day they seen it.
Yep.
The time of day and exactly where it was standing. Was it running? Was it walking? Did it walk away? Did it look over its shoulder when it was walking away? Did you chase it with the four-wheeler? That is the absolute worst you can do. Because if they're, they were pushing some, gathering the dock the other day. They're finishing up one of the big pastures. Everything's big out here. And there's a coyote stands up on the edge of a drainage. So I get a phone call that night and they tell me exactly what time. The first question is, did the boys chase it? And, the rancher, no, the boys know they're not supposed to be chasing those coyotes. So let's hope they didn't chase the coyotes. Because if they did chase it, it's going to be exactly there in the morning. And if they did chase it, it's not going to be there in the morning. And if you want me to do my job, don't chase it. So I went back there the next morning and both those coyotes were, I spent the day before scouting, the morning scouting. When I finally sat down, it was basically where I thought they had last seen it. And both those coyotes came in immediately on the first sequence of calls. If they had chased it, that never would have happened.
Okay. So let's go back to the den thing. So you're looking for the dens. What do you do when you find where these coyotes are denning up at?
Well, if I don't have the adults yet, then, the rule of thumb is put your feet in the hole and make some sounds like coyotes are perfect at a den location or a dog barking. But if I find the den, then I'm usually up on the den. And then whether I get the adults or not, I'm able to kill the den. If you kill the den, studies will show within 1 to 3 days, generally all your livestock killing will end if you get every one of those pups. If you kill 6 out of 7, you got 1 pup in there, the killing won't change at all. You get all of them. Now, if you kill the male, leave some pups with the female, not only is she looking for easier food to kill, and she may or may not be able to get another male with her. In my country, it's a little harder for them to find a male that time of year. But they generally won't fight the dogs. And if they won't work the dogs, just pick up and run away. And so if they work the dogs, it makes it really a lot easier to tell where the den is because they're constantly looking at the den. Like if a coyote is sitting out there, he will constantly, his gaze will go from the dogs to the den, dogs to the den. If you're watching your coyote sitting out there throwing a fit at your dogs and then stops and then turns and looks at something and keeps on looking in a general direction, generally the den is in that spot. Like in the mornings, you don't even want to call first thing in the mornings on a den. I like to be there around 8:30, 8:30 to 10:30, because then they're home. They've fed the pups and they're bedded down somewhere close to the den. If I see a coyote out of the airplane at 10 o'clock in May, the chances of that coyote being close to the den, if I'm hunting a pair, are extraordinarily high. But if I see that coyote at 6 o'clock in the morning or hear a coyote howling at midnight, that doesn't tell me anything generally.
I see.
Anyway, so
yeah, that's good information because I never thought about, if they're out there all by themselves at that time, they're that close to a den, but they're done feeding in the morning. They're basically got nothing rest to do until they go out and feed again, I guess. Yeah. I like it.
Generally, they're sitting or staring at the rule of thumb is 200 to 300 yards at some sort of elevation, staring at that den. If they hang out by the den, especially at the pups at this age, they're constantly biting the adults trying to get fed. And so they'll go in there, drop that food, but they're not hanging out with them because of the biting.
Yeah.
so they'll just back off. So if you're seeing coyotes in the middle of the day, like when you're fencing and it's June and you bump a coyote out of his den, if you just shot that coyote, okay, you shot a coyote. But this time of year, especially, if I see a coyote stand up at 10 o'clock and it's not like better almost is to leave that alone, come back the next day, call that spot, start with a howl, and just see if you got any pups present. that you didn't know about. Because now if you kill the adults, the pups more than likely will make it. They'll eat bugs. They'll eat each other. Like in May, if you kill the adults early May, end of April, there's a good chance those pups will cool down on their own and all die. And usually the first night.
But they have a better chance after like June. They have a better chance of surviving on their own. Yeah. Okay.
Bugs, grasshoppers, they'll live off grasshoppers. And when you're looking for pups, when you find their scat, it almost looks like skunk scat because it's full of bugs.
Okay.
And so you won't find that regular turd that you're looking for. You'll just start finding, grasshopper husks. You'll find these little
right.
Anyway, so then once you start getting within a certain, it's like red fox. If you're driving down the road in the springtime and you find a dead red fox pup on the road, generally that den is within 50 yards of the road.
Really?
Almost always. And it's about the end of May, first part of June, you start seeing dead red fox pups on the road. I can mark that on your GPS. That's a great place to go back to in the fall.
Oh, be darned. We got a question comes in here, Jamie. It says, when I'm hearing coyotes howl all around me at dark during deer season, are they hunting? Are they communicating? What do you think that is going on right there?
So they have a thing called a spacing howl. And a lot of times so you're probably hearing an intact family group. And they're just letting each other know. They also call it a rally call. And they're just letting everybody know where they're at. Now, there's times where when you're howling, everybody's going to come in and check you out. A lot of times when coyotes are howling, they're just saying, hey, I'm over here. Hey, I'm over here. And that's it. They're just letting each other know where they're at. And they will approach property lines, these imaginary territorial lines that are a little bit more established after the first of the year. But even in the fall, especially with the more mature adult coyotes, 5, 6, 7+-year-old coyotes, they'll maintain those property lines, those boundaries of their territory almost year-round, intact, male, female, and stuff like that. But a lot of times when you're hearing that, depends on the densities, but I would say that's a family group that's intact, meaning they haven't dispersed yet. They aren't, as the breeding season, hormone levels come up end of November, December, they start moving. But that October, November area, a lot of those pups are all. So like when you're calling in the fall and you call in a coyote and shoot it, that's why you want to sit there and keep on calling. Because usually all those pups, those litter mates, are all within earshot of each other. And the first thing a coyote hears when he's born is that kind of like what people call a ki-yi. They're fighting over nipples from day one.
Yeah.
And so those feeding sounds, especially early in the fall, you can get coyote after coyote, 3, 4, 5 coyotes on one stand. Most of the time, everybody shoots one coyote, does the high five and leads. But a lot of times, if you're patient and you have an area that hasn't been beat up too much, you can usually just work around through there, and they're all relatively close by. That's why we use decoy dogs. You use the decoy dogs. A couple years ago, I had 4 coyotes on one den. The dogs just keep pulling them in.
In some areas, that's not legal, though.
What's that?
Using dogs.
What? Really?
Yeah.
I don't. So coursing.
Really?
So
really? He says.
I don't know if I do that. So like, there's different types of dogs used. So you have coursing dogs, which are running them all over God's green earth, and that can be frowned on because you're crossing a bunch of property lines.
Yeah. And
that can be an issue. But the decoy dogs, they're doing exactly that. Like my dogs don't chase coyotes per se. They'll go out and engage them and get them hooked, as we say. And then once they have that coyote hooked, they bring them back to you. But you do not want an aggressive. You want a confident dog, but you don't want an aggressive decoy dog because they can cause more problems than you're worth. And if you have an aggressive, guys will run 2 a lot of times. And if you have one aggressive one in there, run him by himself and let those dogs show him how important it is not to be overly aggressive. But the decoy dog thing, guys, like you should have a decoy dog. You probably teach your herd dogs how to do that to an extent. But if you want, decoying coyotes is right up there with calling in archery elk. Yeah. It's that exciting.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know if it is. I'd have to check the legalities of it in my area. I'm not 100% sure what the rules are on that. But before we got to go here, we only got a couple minutes left here. I want to make sure people get some information about your outfitting. What do you got lined up this fall for outfitting? I mean, you're going to start out with antelope, I'm guessing. Here is going to be your first one out.
Yeah. So archery antelope, I'll have guys showing up August 14th, and I'll run about what I got this year, about 8 days of archery antelope, and then I go from there. I go up to Bridger Teton National Forest. I guide bear hunts for about 3 weeks. So that'll be the end of August through end of September. Then I come back. My area 26 opens up September 24th through mid-October, and then I have another antelope area that opens up. Well, my mule deer area opens up October 1st, and then that runs through the end of October, and then November 1st goes straight back into the trapping. So it gets, and I got a big season this year. It's one of my best draws I've ever had. I'll have, archery season, or excuse me, antelope and elk out here are the tags to get. If you want to hunt Wyoming mule deer, you better get after it. It's our mule deer I don't know how you guys have been. We should talk about mule deer too. Our mule deer population over here is struggle city.
Same way in my area too. Yeah, same way in my area. Yeah.
Then they blame everything on CWD, but I don't see it. I have seen it, but not at the levels that should impact my deer herd the way it has.
Right,
and we take a very limited number of deer off of my properties. I mean, I do not overhunt the deer. I don't know. What is everybody saying over there?
Well, we don't have enough time to get into that argument because I can tell you what people are saying and seeing, and it's different everywhere you go. But a couple of years ago, we had EHD come through and wipe out all the white-tailed deer. And in my mind, these mule deer were getting sick from it. They didn't get killed like the whitetail did, but I think they got sick off of it. And then we had a couple hard winters, and I think it all kind of fed together. But also, the more elk, it seems like they're pushing out the mule deer. Seems like the more elk that show up, the more deer are getting pushed out of the area and go to different spots. But I'm not sure on that. But very quickly, a guy has a question. Decoy dog, does a coyote think he's going to be eating the dog, best up the dog? Or does the other dog just talking trash? You got 20 seconds to answer that one.
I've never had a coyote try to, what appears to be trying to kill my dogs. I generally feel as if they're just trying to get them out of there, just trying to push them out of there.
Yeah.
Lots of vibrato, lots of kickbacks and stuff like that. And if you get a female to come in on a decoy dog by herself, there's another problem with killing the male first. There's a percentage of the time where she will lead you away from the pups. I've traveled probably 2 miles one morning following a coyote, and she would just stay. Every time we looked like we weren't going to keep up, she would come back, stand on top of the hill and bark at us, and pull us all the way, and then it just stopped. She ran her butt all the way back to those pups, gathered those pups up and moved them, came back the next day with an airplane, and the last we seen her, she had them picked up, and she was heading across country to the stage. We never did. By the time they seen her, anyway, females can be a problem.
Box
Box
Creek Outfitters, Jamie Olson is his name. You can find him online, Facebook, all the social media aspects, and maybe even see him do a TikTok dancer. So thanks for listening in today. Thank you, Jamie, for joining us. Eat some meat, drink some milk, wear fur and wool. Have yourself a great weekend, everybody. All right. So we're clear off of, hopefully the radio stations have us turned down here at this point. We're still on YouTube.
That's the fastest hour, man. I'm always astonished how fast that goes.
Quote of the day, Russ Helmovig down south. He says, most of the crashes are survivable. He says, Jamie sounds great, but I'm not flying with him.
I flew with 2 old pilots, and nothing gives you more confidence than a pilot with gray hair and wrinkles.
Yeah.
And they were both, the one guy, well, both of them used to fly crop dusters. The one guy had flown some private stuff for years. He had also done like the forest fires and those big old military planes. I flew with Jerry Hyatt a lot, and really neat, interesting guy. But I was able to do things in the back of an airplane that most guys just,
Yeah.
because I kept my mouth shut, first of all. I'm good at keeping my mouth shut, and meaning I'm not whining back there because I'm terrified the whole time with the stuff they're doing. I just tried to focus on the coyotes and let them do their work. But yeah, it was amazing how they could get us dropped into stuff. Like, we would literally come completely out of the throttle. Like, we'd be up in the looking at these coyotes, and when we would finally work them into an area where we could kill them, they would, Jerry would pull all the way off the throttle, and the airplane would fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
And then he would, just as we're coming down on him at that 15-foot range or like that, then he would full throttle, and then push that coyote off to the left, and then I would get my shots off. And then if you missed, wounded, whatever, they would do a barrel roll. You'd be right back down on top of that coyote again. I can't tell you how crazy that stuff was unless you were out there watching it. But, a lot of times it's, you're just out in the middle of nowhere by yourself with you and the pilot doing this. Like, most of the time, all you can see out of the airplane when I'm looking out those windows, including the ceiling. So our ceiling in the airplane is glass.
Okay.
Or plexiglass. So I can see out the ceiling. And you're like, well, why do you need to see out the ceiling? Because at times I'm watching the coyote through the ceiling.
Yeah.
And so it's just, and then when you come through, then you're supposed to have the, ready to shoot. It's just a lot to ask of a guy.
Yeah. The mayor says it sounds like a lot of Red Baron stuff going on out there in Wyoming.
Oh, well, they do it in every state, I think. It's just that here we got the mountains to deal with. That open sage stuff, it kind of, what happens with guys, and we had a pilot here who works for the county, flipped the plane here last winter, not this winter, the winter before last. And the guy who's the gunner, he's a buddy of mine. These guys are both, they're 60s, 70s, and have been doing this forever. And what happens is you're going after a coyote, and it's not like chasing it with a snowmobile, but nonetheless, you're going after the coyote, and you get some problems with your depth perception at times.
Yeah.
And they actually, the guy I used to work with years ago did this, and then these two guys in town, but they clipped the wheels of the airplane on the top of the hill, and then flipped the airplane over.
Oh.
Yeah. So the pilots, you really got, that flying low thing. When you're dragging your tires through the sage that makes the airplane flip, that's too low.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm not even a pilot, and I know that. Yeah.
Oh, geez, man. Well, the wind would push you, like when you'd get close to like structure at all. So like you'd be out in the open, the wind is one thing, but then when you get close to those buttes, the way the wind comes off those buttes, same thing with hunting elk in the mountains. Those little sniffer bottles that you have, those shoot the talcum powder.
Yeah.
Like if you're archery hunting elk, that should be in your hand the entire time you're doing it, because the wind, when you're going up the mountains, the wind, every time you come around the corner, the wind's going to change direction. All the little drainages and stuff that you hit as you're going up the mountain, and I'm talking tight cover, your last final stalk up towards this elk, but the wind is constantly changing direction, and there's nothing you can do about it per se. It's not like you're going to go around the mountain and all of a sudden the wind's going to be better for you. But you got to get out of those little seams when you see that the wind's going around. Well, the airplane's the same way. When we'd fly into that stuff, there was an anticipation of what side the wind was going to hit on. And every once in a while, it wouldn't go the way you think it was going to go. And we were up in this area. So remember that movie, Clint Eastwood, Unforgiven?
I've not seen that.
Oh my God, how do you not watch Clint Eastwood's greatest cowboy movie? Anyway, you should watch that tonight.
I watched Fistful of Dollars a few times.
That's great too. This is of that level though. This is that caliber. Anyway, when his buddy Ned gets killed, he gets killed in the Cow Creek Buttes. The Cow Creek Buttes is in Commerce County. I've trapped that and flown that for 2 decades.
Okay.
And so when you're watching that movie and they're talking about spots in Wyoming, spots in Commerce County that I have been in, man, that makes it so much cooler. But that's
feel
when
like
they're talking
Clint
about.
Eastwood, do you?
Oh shit! Yeah. Well, the military flies B-1B bombers through some of this country.
Okay.
And they fly them really low to the ground. And we were hunting coyotes up there one day, and a B-1B come through so low that not only did we freak him out when he come through, but he had to pull up in order to clear some of the buttes that he was coming up on.
Wow.
Yeah, and C-130s. I've been in their airplane and looking out the window at C-130s flying below me that weren't supposed to be there. Like, so when you talk about these planes that, the government says you're only supposed to fly at certain heights, we actually called the Air Force Base down in Cheyenne because we're a government entity. We have flying rights to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. And these guys aren't supposed to be in there. I used to date one of the gals that was an ER nurse that was in there's 3 C-130s that they would do this with, and she would fly around in it. Anyway, so we called down there, and they're like, "Oh, we don't fly that drainage. We don't fly at that height." And I'm telling the state director, I said, "I got pictures. I got pictures of me standing on top of this butte, and I'm taking pictures of the top of them as they're going by me. C-130s." Anyway, they quit flying that drainage. They didn't admit to flying that drainage, but we didn't see them in that drainage anymore.
Yeah. As soon as people get, Gene Cox says, you have not seen Unforgiven, Scott? That's un-American.
It is un-American.
I'll freaking find it on TV tonight if I can get time. But Jamie, I got to run. I got a parade, and I got to announce a parade today in our little town. So I got
not gay pride parade, I suppose. In your little town.
It is
you guys
not.
Probably don't have any of those.
We don't have any of those. Well,
Isn't pride one of the 7 deadly sins?
I don't know.
I think it is. I think pride is one of the sins, and we celebrate the VA. We celebrate veterans. What do they get? A day? They get a day.
And
I think pride is a whole month.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, we need to tell people what Independence Day really means and bring back fighting after debates. We need fist fights. These kids
we need to talk
tougher,
about the Boston Tea Party.
There you go. Yeah.
They need to talk about that in taxes and see how we just sit and slurp all that up. More taxes, great. Tax this, tax that. Even I went to California this spring, went to Long Beach. I take a trip there every year with my buddies, and you can't buy anything with cash.
No, it's all.
You can't buy anything with cash.
You have to have a card. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I'll let you get going to your fancy parade.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it again.
All right, Scott. Bye now.
You bet. See ya. Jamie Olson. Thank you. All right, YouTube guys. Thank you so much for everything. Thanks for hanging on. I think Lincoln was a wrestler, beat up some people. I agree. It's Aryan Pride the rest of this summer on my channel. Okay. Thank you, YouTube guys. Appreciate y'all. Make sure to tell your friends to subscribe as well. Have a good day. If you're bored, see you in Raymond like an hour.